I just counted how many books I've read. Hey guys, it's Hannah, and today I am doing my July wrap-up and August TBR. We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to let you know that I say this is my July wrap-up and August TBR the entire time, when it's not. It's my August wrap-up and September TBR, so just ignore that. I am filming this on time. I don't know if you're gonna see it on time because I have another video that I already pre-filmed, so I'm not sure which one I'm gonna post first, but let it be known that today is August 31st. So I am filming this on time, which is just a rarity. So the first 3 books I read during the booktubeathon. If you want to see that, I'll leave the vlog linked down below. I'll also leave last month's wrap-up linked down below because the first half of it I wrapped up in that part. But the first book I completed in the month of July was Half Magic by Edward Eager. This is a kid's book where these 4 siblings find this coin that grants wishes but only halfway completely. And so it's about the adventures they take with that coin. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as I think I would have if I had read it when I was younger, but I really liked the writing style. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend it. Plus, this old edition I found is just way too cute to pass up. The next book I read was How We Weep and Laugh at the Same Thing by Michael de Montaigne? I don't know. I hated this book. The author is very pretentious. The whole thing was boring. The whole thing was stuff that you kind of already know, and towards the end, he said a few things that just really pushed my buttons. So I would not recommend this. It was a struggle through the entire 50-ish pages. I would recommend you run away screaming from this. I hated it. Do not read it. I have a little more in-depth in the vlog, but that's basically the gist of it. Just don't read it. Next book I read was The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. This book is about a kid who is somewhere on the autistic spectrum, and his neighbor's dog gets stabbed with a garden fork, and he starts trying, my book is messed up, and he starts trying to figure out who killed his neighbor's dog. And I really enjoyed it. The writing style was very straightforward and just very practical, and I really liked that. It had a really nice tone to it, and I just really enjoyed the story. It wasn't anything amazing, but I enjoyed it the entire time I was reading it, so I definitely recommend it. The next book I read is I Am Still Alive by Kate Alice Marshall. This book is about a girl who ends up stranded in the Alaskan wilderness. I'm not going to tell you how, even though you do find out in like the first few pages, but it's a survival story. It is like a survival thriller, and it is fantastic. It will be on my top books for this year. It was so freaking good. I loved the main character. I loved all of the situations she was put in and how she dealt with them in such a natural way. I loved the book. And while I was reading the book, the power went out. So I was reading the book with the help of candles and a camping lantern while we were playing a game called Hugger Mugger, which is my favorite game of all time. And honestly, that just really added to the reading experience. It was just fantastic. It broke my heart. It healed my heart. I loved it. You need to read it. I cannot talk about it enough. It was beautifully written, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. You have to read it. It is so good. And I wasn't sure what to expect going into it. I was a little nervous, not gonna lie, because it's not something that I had seen a whole lot, but where I had seen it, everyone was just ranting and raving about it. And I'm not the biggest person for survival stories, but this one hit the ball out of the park. Fantastic, and I need more like it. Next book I read was Starflight by Melissa Landers. This book is about a ragtag, no, that's the other book I read. Hang on, what's this one? I read another sci-fi that I was about to describe. I was about to describe The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. This book is about a girl who has these felon things tattooed on her knuckles. Basically, like, she's in trouble with the law, and she's trying to hitch a ride to one of the outer planets that are lawless so she can get a job and prosper and thrive and all that jazz. And she ends up being the servant of a guy who she knows from school, and they're basically rivals. Things lead to things, and they both end up on a different ship together, and adventures happen. I don't know how to describe it without giving away a kind of major plot point, really, but they end up on a ship for adventures trying to get to a certain place, and it's basically a haters to lovers story. I enjoyed it. It was a good, solid, enjoyable read. Nothing fantastic, nothing amazing, but I enjoyed it the entire time, so I would recommend it. Just don't expect to be blown away. It's not that kind of sci-fi, but it was a nice, enjoyable read. So if you're in the mood for just a very casual sci-fi that is better, if you ask me, than The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, then I recommend this one. I know there's a second book, but I think it follows one of the other characters, and I didn't love her, so I haven't decided if I'm going to continue on with it or not. We'll see. Honestly, I probably won't. Not because I hated it, but just because I don't care enough to. The next book I read was Wink Poppy Midnight by April Genevieve Tucholke. I didn't really like this book. This book is about 3 characters, Wink, Poppy, and Midnight, and I don't really know how to describe what happens because not much happens. It's boring. I didn't enjoy any of the things that did happen, and there wasn't much that did happen, and I didn't enjoy any of the characters. One thing I did enjoy though was the atmosphere of this book. The setting was very beautiful. I loved it because it's basically the real life world, but there's something about it that just makes it seem off and strange and almost mystical, and like you're in a fantasy world when you're technically not, and my lighting just really changed it. So I really liked the atmosphere of the book. That was beautiful, but I didn't like the characters or the plot or any of that. So I did not enjoy this book. Literally like 10 pages in, I could tell that I probably wasn't gonna like it, but I had decided that I wanted to read it, so I made myself continue on, and I enjoyed the atmosphere, but that's about it. So I wouldn't exactly recommend it. Yeah, I didn't really enjoy it, and it sometimes just confused me, and I didn't really care. But it has a really cool atmosphere. The next book I read gets a little preface. I ordered this book after I read Weekends with O'Keeffe by C.S. Merrill, which if you watched that past wrap-up, you know that that is now on my favorite books of all time list. I love that book. So, during that time, Georgia O'Keeffe was writing her autobiography, and so hearing about her writing her autobiography made me want to read her autobiography. Hard to say. So, I ordered it off of Amazon, and I'm expecting an average size book. You know, a book about this big. Maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit thicker, but an average sized book. I did not get an average sized book because apparently her autobiography is a coffee table book. This book is as big as I am. I can prop it on my shoulder and you can't see the top of it. I was so shocked when I got this in the mail because it was such a big package and I was so confused and I couldn't remember what I had ordered because I was expecting a book and I'm like, what? Did I buy something else? Why am I getting such a big package? And I open it up and it's this honker. So essentially this is her autobiography. It's full of writings by her and then her paintings. So it's her telling the story of her life essentially, but in a very sporadic, almost diary-esque way, and then her paintings are scattered throughout, and sometimes she gives brief descriptions of how she created the painting. See, it's so big it almost fell over. Of how she created the painting or what was happening during the time she was painting that painting, or sometimes there's just a painting there and it's just there to look pretty. I really enjoyed this. I read it in a day and I gave it 5 stars and it's beautiful and I love Georgia O'Keeffe, and yeah, that's it. You should read this. You should also read Weekends with O'Keeffe by C.S. Merrill because it's also fantastic. The next book I read was By Your Side by Casey West. This book is about a girl who gets locked in the library on accident and she ends up being locked in there with another guy from her school who she doesn't really talk to, but she knows about him. And so they kind of become friends during that time, and then it also goes into after they get out of the library and what happens then. And I don't know. I was kind of bored the entire time I read this. There was nothing bad about it. There was nothing great about it. It was just, I was reading it because I was reading it and I wanted to finish it because I was curious to see what happened, but also I didn't really care. I kind of had to force myself to finish it at the end, and it just didn't blow me away. It was nothing bad, but it didn't really have anything to grab me and pull me in. Like, I didn't care a whole lot about the characters, but I didn't hate any of them. Basically, I was just kind of indifferent the entire time, and that's not really what you should be when you read a book. Also, especially so contemporary, when like the whole point is to get you invested into someone's love story, essentially. I mean, that kind of really downgrades contemporary, but you get what I'm saying. Like, the point of contemporary is kind of to be invested in the characters, I feel like. Whether it be because of a love story or because of they're going through a mental illness or a situation or whatever. I feel like the point of contemporary is to be invested in the characters. Like, that's more of the focus of contemporary. Whereas like fantasy and sci-fi, I feel like more hangs on the plot than the characters sometimes. With contemporary, like, you almost have to have really good characters. And I didn't have that. And I was just kind of bored the entire time and didn't hate it, but definitely didn't love it. So I don't really know what to tell you. The next book I read was On the Fence by Casey West. This book I wasn't going to read. I guess I should preface this. I got a bunch of Casey West books for my sister from our local library because I had heard she was good at contemporary and that's my sister's favorite genre, and so I picked some up for her to read on our main trip. And I decided, I might as well read some too. And so I read By Your Side first because a library is mentioned in the synopsis, so of course that's the one I picked up first. And since I didn't like it, I wasn't going to continue on with any of her others. Joanna had picked up of on the fence first, and she said it was really good and I'd probably like it. So I went ahead and gave it a chance, and I'm glad I did. I enjoyed it much more than By Your Side. There were a lot of tropes. There was a lot of stereotypes with girly girls versus tomboys and sporty girls and all that kind of thing, which annoyed me sometimes. Most of the time I was able to just look past it. But overall, I enjoyed it. It was nothing spectacular, but there were quite a few moments where it was very enjoyable. So I would recommend this one. Not if you're wanting to be blown out of the park, but if you're just wanting something quick and fun and light to read, then I would recommend this one. I thought this one was pretty good. The next book I read was Lumberjanes Volume 2 by Noelle Stevenson. This is the sequel to the first Lumberjanes graphic novel, where essentially it's these girls at a camp and they kind of delve into this supernatural-esque world. And it's beautiful and hilarious. The first one had me dying. I loved it. And the second one, I honestly didn't enjoy quite as much as the first one, but it still was hilarious and had me dying, and I loved it. The next book I read was Stay Sweet by Vivian? I'm not sure how to say the first name. This book is about an ice cream stand, and since its beginning it has been run completely by girls, and then one day the owner dies, and so there's this whole kind of transition, and her great nephew ends up taking over the stand, and that causes this whole big hullabaloo. It was good. It was cute, but again, kind of boring. Nothing spectacular. I didn't love it, but I did enjoy it. There were some aspects I enjoyed more than others, but overall I was just kind of reading it to read it. It wasn't keeping me engaged like I wanted it to. I don't really know how to describe it because I don't really know how I feel about it, because I just feel a little indifferent. Better than By Your Side. I did enjoy it better than By Your Side, but I still wouldn't say that it was absolutely fantastic and you have to read it. But I did enjoy it, so if you're looking for something cute, it might be up your alley, but it wasn't exactly my cup of tea. I mean, it was my cup of tea, but I wasn't exactly impressed with it. Next, I read Lumberjanes Volume 3, A Terrible Plan by Noelle Stevenson. This one had a different art style than the first two, and I liked the art style in the first two more, and I felt like that kind of changed the way I enjoyed this one, because I still really enjoyed it, but for some reason it just didn't have my complete love like the first two had. And I don't know if that's just because of the art style or what, but I did still really enjoy it. I do like the original art style better. I don't know why the switch happened. It's been kind of confusing for me to try and find the different editions. I feel like I might have read the wrong one, like a side one, but I'm not sure because it does say Volume 3, so I might be confused. If I am confused, just let me know. But I did enjoy it. I love Lumberjanes. They're fantastic. Now, the last 5 books I read, the 3 contemporaries and the 2 editions of Lumberjanes, I read while I was reading this one book, which is the last book I read in the month of July, which is Eldest by Christopher Paolini. This was a almost 700-page book. It was taking me a hot minute to get through it, and so every now and then I would just take a day break from it and read something different. All of those books except for By Your Side, which took me like 3 days, took me just 1 day to read. So there was just 1 day where I just took a break from Eldest and I read these. Not because I didn't enjoy Eldest, because I really loved Eldest, but just because I kind of wanted something different. But Eldest, if you don't know, it's the second book in the, I guess it's called the Aragon series. I'm not sure what the series is called, but Aragon is the first book. This kid finds a dragon egg. The dragon egg hatches. He has a dragon friend. They go fight people, and there's elves, and there's dwarves, and there's magic, and it's beautiful. And I think I like the first one better, but they're both really good, and I just haven't decided yet. Really enjoyable. Really liked being back in the world again. I felt a bit more invested in the characters this time. I will say there were a lot of stupid decisions this time, but I did enjoy it. And in this one, we kind of pass back and forth between a few different characters. We don't just follow Aragon, and I enjoyed that a lot. Overall, highly enjoyable. Just very long, so I needed little breaks in between. Now, for the August TBR, I am currently reading A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson, and this is probably going to end up in my favorites of the year because it is fantastic. It is about this guy who is hiking the Appalachian Trail, and it is a true story about his experience doing that. And the reason I wanted to pick this up was because I saw it in a bookstore in Maine, but I didn't buy it because it wasn't a very good condition and they were wanting me to pay $6 for it, and I'm not about that life. But the reason I picked it up also was because it has a bear on the cover, and I love bears. This book is fantastic so far. It's hilarious, but it's also educational because they'll go off on all these tangents about facts about bears, facts about different national parks, facts about wildlife in general, and I just love it so much because he's hilarious and informative, and it's beautiful. My plan is to finish it this weekend, and I am just expecting to be enamored because I am already so far. So I haven't finished it, but I do highly recommend it. It's Labor Day weekend this weekend, so my family is going to the lake, and so I have a couple of books that I might get to after I finish A Walk in the Woods. I don't know which one I want to start next. I know which one I probably should start next because it's a library book. The first one I have is Going Rogue by Robin Benway. This is the second book in the also known as series, I guess is what it is, which I read a couple of months ago and I enjoyed it. It's just like a quick, really fun, really tropey read. This is the second one, so I might read this because I'm kind of in the mood for just something enjoyable, you know? Or I'll read The 13.5 Lives of Captain Blue Bear by Walter Moers. Moores? I don't know. I have no idea what this book is about, but it is described as equal parts J.K. Rowling, Douglas Adams, and Shel Silverstein, and it says Douglas Adams on the cover, as well as Shel Silverstein, who is one of my favorite poets as a kid, as well as J.K. Rowling, who obviously wrote Harry Potter. So, whatever this is, I'm excited for it. And it's huge and massive, but the print is fairly large, and I want to see what it's about, and I'm hopefully gonna get to it soon. So that is it for this video. Comment down below and let me know if I am reading Lumberjanes kind of out of order, because I'm just a bit confused by that one that says it's the third one and it's a different art style. I'm just a little confused, so if you know, let me know. Help a girl out, please. I'd appreciate it. Also comment down below and let me know what your Labor Day weekend plans are. You'll be seeing this after Labor Day, so I guess let me know what you did for Labor Day. That sounds more like it, yeah. And if you have like a specific TBR for Labor Day, let me know what that is down below. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see y'all again in another one soon.